Here's a story about how the Oregon State Beavers rebuilt a championship team from the ground up. Now, a year ago, Oregon State women's basketball was the nation's Cinderella story, right? They were unranked to start the season, but with the likes of Reagan Beers, Tamia Gardner, Donovan Hunter, and Talia Von Oelhoffen, they were able to fight and claw into success on the court and trying their best to get some recognition off the court. The team would go on to see a 27-8 record overall last season, going 12 wins, 6 losses in Pac-12 play. Still, even with that, pretty good record, really good record, actually, and great success in the Pac-12, still no one really cared. They went on to the NCAA Tournament, finding their way all the way to the Sweet 16, where they ultimately took down Notre Dame, and Talia Von Oelhoffen was saying, y'all better put some respect on our name.
For you, you tweeted, "Where do we submit our application to be America's team?"
Let's go.
So make the case. Let's hear it.
Oh, we just made a TikTok about this, so stay tuned for our real application. But no, I just think there's so many big names in women's basketball and names that you see repeatedly in the media, and they're great players and they should be talked about. But I think, I don't know what the numbers are for media coverage, but we haven't been talked about a lot. We've been on the Pac-12 network all year. A lot of people haven't had the opportunity to watch our team, and so to be on this stage now, I had people texting me that Notre Dame was talked about all game, and so little things like that drive us. But it's just this team plays so together, and we're so unselfish, and we love each other so much, and that might not get views, that might not get clicks, that might not be a headline that pulls everyone in, but it wins games, and it's important in between the lines. And so I don't know, I just think this team is so incredible and so special, and so we might not have the big names in the commercials and TikTok stars yet. We're trying, but no, I think that's all that means is just we're America's team. We're selfless. We play together. We're a family, and that's a story. That's a headline that I can get behind, and I think a lot of people should too.
So that's what was said last year, right? The Beavers, they fought their way all the way to the Elite Eight. Again, going from an unranked team before the season started to making it to the Elite Eight. I call that a Cinderella story. How about you? They ultimately lost to the eventual champs, the South Carolina Gamecocks, in the Elite Eight. And Oregon State, they were starting to get some respect. It was like, okay, this is a good squad. They got a good team, but what's going to come next year? And ultimately, they ended up collapsing within the span of a couple weeks after their loss in the Elite Eight. We saw everything that was built for this team just crumble. And as always, conference realignment has messed up everything. The team was gutted when the Pac-12 was done. The Oregon State ended up joining the WCC, meaning the West Coast Conference, which is historically not that competitive of a conference when it comes to women's basketball. So the top players on the team ended up leaving. They ended up saying, you know what, I'm gone. 6 of the top players for Oregon State ended up chucking up the deuces, saying, you know what, Scott Rueck, you a great coach. We love Oregon State. However, we came to compete, and the WCC is not the place to be. So they left, including their All-American Reagan Beers, who is now at Oklahoma, right? And what remained was some okay players, right? They ended up having a depleted roster, and they had some, they ended up having a walk-on, even playing some significant minutes this upcoming year, and there was no real hope for another magical run, right? A magical run seemed out of the reach for Oregon State. And yet, here I am talking about this team. Against all odds, Oregon State, after having their best players walk away from the program, after basically starting from scratch, this team is now back in the NCAA tournament. This time as champions of the West Coast Conference with their 59-46 win over Portland in the WCC title game. Ended up capping off a very remarkable rebuild. And here's the thing. I want to talk about this a little bit more. I want to talk about this a little more. Because when we talk about improbable teams, when we talk about the Cinderella stories, when we talk about teams that are not supposed to make some noise but ends up making some noise, there is usually a mastermind behind them. And in this case, it is head coach Scott Rueck. He has long been known as one of the best minds in women's college basketball, but this season required him to do more than just the X's and O's. It required resilience, vision, and the ability to inspire belief when all seemed lost. After the exodus of talent, Scott Rueck had a chance to start from scratch. He built the team around the remaining players and helped to instill a mindset that is a team that refuses to lose. This team added some key pieces, as most notably, I would say, Catarina Ferreira, who ended up winning the WCC Most Outstanding Player. She would ultimately become a game changer in this one. But even with that huge ad of a transfer, the Beavers struggled early in both non-conference and conference play. In January, they went on a 4-game losing streak that left them at 9-13 on the season, far from looking like a contender in the WCC, let alone the NCAA at large. But what Scott Rueck never let his team forget was that March is a whole different animal. The season is about peaking at the right time. And boy, oh boy, are the Beavers peaking at the right time. And dealing with some huge adversity and making some stuff happen. Despite their rough regular season, the Oregon State Beavers entered the WCC tournament with some quiet confidence, right? A belief that was immediately put to the test. In the quarterfinals, the Beavers blew a 17-point lead to San Francisco, but escaped with a buzzer-beaten shot from Kelsey Reese that ultimately led them to the next game.
Reese, ball out of her hands, gets it back. She's got to put up a shot. It's around it. Good! It's good! Kelsey Reese from the right baseline. The ball rolls around and drops through. And the Oregon State Beavers survive USF 61-59 in dramatic fashion.
With her lone made field goal of the game, Kelsey Reese, when the game was on the line, time was winding down, this was Oregon State's opportunity to get the dub. Kelsey Reese, after going 0 for 4 for the game, made the one shot that counted, getting Oregon State the dub over their competition. And then we head to the semifinals. So you thought that the quarterfinals was very, very close. The quarterfinals, very close game, huge dub for Oregon State, eking out that victory. So you're like, okay, semifinals, who you got? They're going against Gonzaga. Yeah, that Gonzaga. They found themselves trailing the top-seeded Gonzaga team in the semifinals. They were losing by 6 points with 2 minutes left to go in the game. And then they pull off a dramatic comeback with Kennedy Schuler, another player who struggled to score all game with less than 1 second on the clock, drops the dagger to give Oregon State a 2-point win over Gonzaga.
Inside, 4 seconds to go. She wants to drive in, puts it up off the glass, and good! 0.8 of a second to go. Kennedy Schuler drives down and puts it off the glass to give the Beavs a 63-61 lead. Kennedy Schuler, and she screams with delight after that ball goes in off the glass.
That was a huge moment for Oregon State. That close to buzzer beater. All right. This was her third game winner of the season for Kylie Schuler. And she did it in dramatic fashion again against the best team in the WCC, or in my opinion, Gonzaga. Crazy, crazy, crazy. So they get the dub against Gonzaga. Against all odds, you have 2 back-to-back game winners. Now you head into the championship game, and they end up facing Portland. And by that time, Oregon State was like, you know what? We're not even gonna make this game close. We're not going to make this game close. We are tired of these close games. We're about to win this game outright. And they did not let another opportunity slip. They had a dominant first half, going on a 20-2 run. Ferreira dominated 16 points, 12 rebounds in this game. And, the Beavers played some pretty good defense, and Portland just couldn't hit nothing. 22% from the field. There was a ton of rebounds in this game. 54 total rebounds for Oregon State in this game. Wild. And it's kind of funny that they had 54 rebounds. The final score was 59 Beavers, 46 Portland. So, Oregon State has had a improbable drive to the NCAA tournament. Very, very improbable. But, as I said earlier, improbable is not impossible. Just because it doesn't seem likely that you are going to be able to get to where you want to get to, they still did it. They still did it. And to me, this just means more. This means more because Oregon State has had more talented teams in the past. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is nowhere near that talented of an Oregon State team. It's not. They've won more games. They've beaten tougher opponents, but few Beaver squads have displayed the sheer grit and perseverance of this one. This was not an extremely talented roster of an Oregon State team. It wasn't. This was a team that had every reason to fold. They lost their top players. They had a lot of uncertainty going into the WCCC due to conference realignment. They had a brutal start to the season. Any of these things could have been the thing that broke them. Instead, they doubled down on their identity. They played tough basketball. They played defensive-minded basketball. They played through some big moments. And now, Oregon State has something that last year's Elite 8 team never did: a conference championship trophy. The Beavers' story is not over yet. They're heading back to the NCAA tournament. And if the past few days have proven anything, it's that they are not done defying expectations. In March, belief is a powerful thing, and Oregon State has plenty of it. Now, guys, that is my story. This is the deep dive of sorts for Oregon State. This is a team that, no one's really talked about them all season, right? This is not a team that gets a lot of play, right? However, the thing about March is I love to pay attention. I love to talk about teams that have done something that I'm shocked about. And Oregon State, to be honest with you, I was not checking for them all season. I didn't think they were going to be very good. However, Scott Rueck was on his big one. He convinced his team to believe, and wow. How far have we come? How far have we come? Now, again, I know that, as TVO said last year, this is not a team that's going to be in the news very much, right? When you write articles about their unprecedented run and all this other stuff, it's not going to get a lot of views, not going to get a lot of attention, but these are the stories we need to be paying attention to. I get it. We are fascinated by the big names. Absolutely. I am too. Pay a lot of attention to the big names. However, these stories matter, right? These stories matter. It is the women's college basketball is not just a handful of teams, right? It's not just, the big teams that you know. Women's basketball and what makes it, or actually sports, what makes March Madness amazing for both the women and the men is you have stories like this. You have stories about teams that are not in the spotlight, right? Teams that have overcome a lot of adversity. It's huge. It is absolutely huge. So let this story help to inspire you. Because regardless of what's going on, regardless of all the stuff that's happening and whatnot, improbable is not impossible. That's what Oregon State believed. And look at where it got them. Look at where it got them. Nobody was expecting them to end up making it to the NCAA tournament, especially after their season started. Like this was not a leaps and bounds great team. It wasn't on paper, but hard work and determination can get you very far, and it got Oregon State very far too. So let that inspire you, hopefully, throughout your day. I love stories like this. I love stories like this. Brian says, congrats to Oregon State. Yeah, I mean, Oregon State was on a big one. They were on their big one this year. Let's see. Jeremy says, by Oregon State being in their new conference, they will win their conference every year. I was thinking it was all Gonzaga, to be honest with you. Because like Gonzaga is the team that has that is really the boss of the WCC when it comes to women's basketball, right? And you know, I would now, yeah, because Scott Rueck has proven, in my opinion, to transfers, to incoming recruits, to be like, hey, I know y'all wanted to come to Oregon State because we were in the Pac-12 and like y'all was going to have a chance of making it into the NCAA tournament and all this other stuff. I understand that. However, I will get you to the NCAA tournament in the WCC with Oregon State. Like I think that is a huge selling point. And because of their success this year, I think we'll see Oregon State in the tournament for years and years and years to come. Aubrey says, I'm just amazed how they had a big turnover with their entire roster, and to join a new conference, perseverance is remarkable. It is absolutely remarkable. Laura loves the story. Michelle loves the story. I appreciate y'all. For y'all support. I will be doing in-depth stories like this. Like, guys, it took me a little while to do the video because I had the video insertions in and whatnot. What did y'all think about that? Did that help to tell the story of this? But anyway, I appreciate y'all. And just let me know. Give me y'all feedback as we go through.